Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next chapter of the Christian Fiction Bookshelf podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Vaughn, and on this chapter of the Christian Fiction Bookshelf podcast, we are with Rachel Fordham, talking about her latest book, A Lady in Attendance. And this chapter of the Christian Fiction Bookshelf podcast is brought to you by Revell, a division of Baker Publishing Group. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now tell us where you are, because I'm sure somebody's going to ask about the background.
I am in my husband's dental office, which is kind of perfect for the book because one of the main characters is a dentist. So we'll pretend like I planned it and it wasn't an internet problem.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear a little bit more about the book, A Lady in Attendance.
Yeah. So my main lead character, Hazel, has just been released from 5 years at a New York State reformatory.
Okay.
And she has trouble finding a job, so she uses a fake name and takes a job as a dental assistant, which back then was called an attending lady or a lady in attendance. Okay. And so that's where the title comes from. And she's kind of just at this point in her life where all she wants to do is make sure she's got food to eat and she's in survival mode. But those walls start to break down and dreams start to resurface as she gets to know Gilbert, who is the dentist that she works for, who's very shy. They're very different personalities, but they sort of bring out the best in each other as they get to become friends. And then suddenly she's maybe more willing to tackle the past.
And how did this book come about? What was your inspiration for writing it?
Well, so my husband is a dentist, and we would always joke about how, how when you're more aware of something, you notice it more. So it was closer to home. So whenever we'd watch movies, if there was a dentist or read a book, they were always seen as either like comical relief or a villain. And so I was like, I want to write a romantic dentist. And so that was inspiration for my main male character. When I started researching it, I realized that was also the right time period that dental assistants or ladies in attendance were starting to become a career option for women. And so that was fun because those were both careers I'd never seen featured in historical novels. And so that is where the career came from. And then I just knew that I really wanted to wrestle with the idea of people, like my main character, male character, is very sweet and innocent, and she has this whole past, and just those two people figuring out how to find common ground with such differences. And so that's where the reformatory backstory came in.
And how did you do your research for it?
Well, I actually, when I was thinking about doing this book, I happened to be back in Buffalo, New York, which is where my husband went to dental school, and we were walking through the old school, reminiscing, and they have a whole bunch of like display cases and stuff with old like historical tools and stuff, like dental instruments. And so I took tons of pictures there, and then I would like just dig a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. For the reformatories, I at first was just Googling women's prisons because I didn't know that reformatories existed, and then that just kind of led me down the I don't know what the right word is, where you go from one thing to the next, until I suddenly found the reformatories. And then I was just really inspired by it all because it was a new movement. It was a new idea that people could change. Like before that, there had been a real stigma of like bad blood, once a criminal, always a criminal. And there were some real trailblazers who surfaced and said, what if we educated them? What if we brought in preachers and pastors? And what if we taught them skills? Like, could they do something different with their lives? And so some very heroic people in the forefront of that movement.
Yeah. And what surprised you the most about writing this book?
I don't know. They always say the authors are either a plotter or a pantser. So you either have it all plotted out or you write by the seat of your pants. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely more of a pantser. And so it's all a discovery for me, because I mean, there's a real big twist in the middle of the book that I didn't see coming. And so the characters always do things I didn't. But I think maybe the most fun part, I don't know if it was surprising, was just watching these two characters bring out the differences in each other and the strengths in each other. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now, Why do you think your storytelling is such a powerful way to share the truth, like your faith in the way you write stories?
Yeah, well, I think that it's powerful to me because that's how I like to learn. I like it when people, uh, kind of gently are like, "Oh, here's a story." Like those are my favorite kind of self-help books. My favorite kind of all those things is when it's told in a story. Maybe it feels less threatening. I guess I was that teenager that didn't like being told what to do, and so I liked the gentle story way of
Right.
working in truth. When I first started writing I didn't know if I would ever be published. And so my manuscripts were all written with the idea of what sort of message would I like my daughter to read in a book. And so I've tried to keep it that way ever since. She's almost 12 and she's read my novels, and it's just sweet to see the things she pulls out of it. And I think I probably went off on a tangent. I don't remember what your exact question was, but um, yeah. So I just like the gentle way that people can pull out what they want and what's relevant to them. Um, because different people with this book, I'm already getting messages from readers, and it's different things that are standing out to different people. Forgiveness is definitely the number one message that I'm getting, but there's people who are like, the story of people changing after a criminal deed is hitting some people. It's making them want to be more welcoming to people who have some sort of mark in their past. For other people, it's been, like maybe my friend who's really quiet has more to him, and I've just only ever looked at the surface. And so I like that people can pull out what truths they're ready to hear or want to hear.
Yeah. Is there a central theme or message that you want the reader to take away when they finish the book?
Yeah, so I always feel like my number one takeaway is I want my readers to be entertained. Like I would love for them all to just kind of have that happy sigh at the end, So that's because I think that good, wholesome entertainment is super, like I think God loves that. Like I think he loves it when we find ways to be entertained and in good ways.
Mhm.
So that's always my number one. And then the messages just kind of seem to like um organically kind of come in there. And for these two characters, it's definitely forgiveness, forgiveness of themselves, forgiveness of people who've wronged them, and letting those things go so that they can embrace their future. And so I love that shone through because it's something I really believe in.
Yeah. Well, Rachel, I can't wait to see what happens with this book. And everyone, you can purchase it now wherever you buy your books, and it's called A Lady in Attendance. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this episode of the Christian Fiction Bookshelf podcast. Again, I'm your host, Jamie Vaughn, and thank you, Rachel Fordham, for coming in and talking to us today about A Lady in Attendance. And if you like this chapter of the Christian Fiction Bookshelf podcast, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss another chapter.